what is going to happen with the homelessness that defines a lot of our people in the urban and peri-urban spaces. One, there's levels of unemployment in South Africa. Stats SA has just illustrated that we've got upward of 11 million people who are looking for jobs and cannot find them. And we've got high levels of poverty. And what are the primary and fundamental systemic causes of those? It's of a stagnant economy which has not been growing. National Treasury says in the budget this year that for the past 12 years, the economy has been growing at 0.8% on average. So once you do not have the expansion of the productive forces, a lot of people will not be able to find sustainable income to build homes for themselves. And such that even the interventions which government will give through low-cost housing is not adequate to could meet the otherwise very huge demand of homelessness that defines a lot of our people. And of course, there will be influx into urban centers because what the ANC has failed to do since 1994 is to undo the spatial segregation that was designed by apartheid and the manner in which it was dealt with that. Apartheid was primarily a spatial problem, of course an economic reality and racism and political problem as well. But spatially, the ANC has failed to reverse the consequences of apartheid where white people stayed in certain areas and black people stayed in certain areas where the economy was only concentrated in certain urban centers and everyone else was forced to going into those urban centers to look for jobs. So what we have to do
so your minute is up,
the economy.
And I want to go back to that earlier question that I asked, because one of the things that the EFF had said on addressing landlessness and the issues around housing is that if land is vacant and you are able to settle there, is that still
So as part of our land program and campaign, which was a very progressive and successful program, by the way, where it said that because the spaces where black people stay in the peri-urban areas, be it EFF Motsoaledi informal settlement, be it Deep Sloot, be it Alexander, it's highly congested. The population density in those areas is far much more higher than anywhere where it's acceptable for human beings to stay in such areas. You'll find one stand, by the way, which is reserved possibly for like 3-4 members, household family, with more than 50 people staying in such spaces. If you go to Alexander today, and then you check those toilets which are put by a government there, and then you just check the number of cleaners who are listed to clean those toilets there, you will find more than 30 people, meaning that that toilet is utilized by more than 100 people. And that is standard in almost all the informal settlements. Due to the failure of the post-1994 government to reverse the injustices of apartheid at a spatial level.
Let's ask the post-1994 government. Mr. Motsoaledi, the ANC has been in governance in South Africa since 1994. At the moment, the housing backlog, some of the numbers say in this country, is beyond 2 million, in fact, which is much more than what it was when you became the party of government. What is the solution now to the issue of people who now are setting up informal settlements because they're simply tired of waiting? Will you service those areas and simply allow them to live there?
Well, the truth of the matter, Tembegile, is that urban migration is a global phenomenon. It's happening all over the world. People are moving to urban areas. And when they do so, they need housing. The truth of the matter is that we are the only country, as far as I know, we started developing RDP houses, building houses for people without them paying anything. It's happening nowhere in the world. And 4 million have already been built, which means a start has been made. Quite a number of people who come to urban areas looking for houses. Yes, it has been reported they do have houses back home, but because there are no jobs there, in fact, houses which some of them never build them for themselves, even RDP houses, because there was a problem of database. So there are people who leave the RDP houses to come to the urban areas to look for jobs. And of course, they've not been planned for. So I do accept what Floyd is saying about the stagnation of the economy. That is one of the solutions. But I do not think there's any way in which the issue of urban migration will stop. Just
your minute is up, sir. Is it stagnation or simply because there's been a failure to plan? What is the solution?
Well, it is stagnation. It is definitely.
As a result of what? A failure to plan?
No.
Or not understanding the problem?
Economic stagnation in the country. because of structural factors of the economy, which you have.
The House seems to disagree.
Well, they are disagreeing because it's me, but this is the truth. That the economy, even some of the people who are living have said so before, that we need to change structural factors of the economy. I know Kosatu has said that many times. Because of those structural factors, we are not able to let the economy get moving. But if you look at our manifesto, we have started to put things and plans there. Yes.
We're 10 minutes in and I'm already sweating. I'm looking for the Socio-Economic Rights Institute because they're among the people who are part of this broadcast tonight. Ma'am, if I can ask you to stand up because you have a question.
Well, I'm here with Lerato Marolo from Slovo Park. It's an informal settlement in the south of Johannesburg. It was established in 1991. And to date, despite a court judgment that ordered the city of Johannesburg to upgrade the informal settlement, Slovo Park today is still waiting. They received electricity in 2018, but the fact remains they're still waiting. Politicians come to Slovo Park frequently. Recently, it was the premier who promised that he'd return, but there's nothing. I think what is absent is a comment on what we're going to do about land redistribution. Unfortunately, informal settlements are a product of landlessness. They're a product of our history, as the EFF has noted, but they are also an urbanization issue, as the ANC has noted. So ultimately, you know, in addition to the economic factors, we can't hide away from the fact that land redistribution is needed. And currently, that is the problem with Slovo Park, where the city and province both don't know what to do with acquiring the land that is apparently owned by the province.
Okay, thank you. Quick one. I'll give you each a sentence to respond, Mr. Motsoaledi, and then Mr. Shivambu, and then you, Mr. Msimanga.
Well, on the issue of the land, we agree wholeheartedly. And you are aware that we also subscribe to the issue of land, to redistribute land, and also to make sure that there's no, the law on compensation which has been followed, that we do not actually support it, as you know. On that one, we are together with EFF, except that when it came to voting, they deserted us.
Okay.
It has been happening now. They deserted us, but we are still pursuing that. We know it needs 2/3. We know that one day, as black people, realize that we need land and do that.
Floyd, your take. Well, that one day be in 30 years if you're not in government.
Do you know that in 1996, the white paper on land reform had set 1999 as the due date for a distribution of 30% of South Africa's land? It's 30 years later now. It's 25 years since 1999. Not even 10% of the land has been redistributed from those who are occupying it through colonialism and settler barbaric colonialism, because of an incapable, directionless government of the ANC. And when we then came as the economic freedom fighters, we say that this piece by piece redistribution of land has not worked because it, in majority of cases, is faced with litigation of people who are saying that you cannot take my farm, you must take these ones instead of this. Why taking mine? Why prioritizing mine instead of the other one? Then we say that let us do to the land resources what was done to the petroleum and mineral resources, to water resources, what the People's Republic of China is doing, of getting the land to be under the custodianship of the state so that we can be able to allocate it to everyone equitably representative and reflective of the demographics of South Africa.
And that's where you and
that is our position, that is it. Of course, then the ANC had initially agreed to our position, and then they later on said that the only land that can be taken without compensation is barren land, is rotten land, is land which is not strategic. That is why we voted against what they had proposed.
The difference was in
terms of
when you say that land, for example, that is taken or redistributed or meant for redistribution, and the state should be the custodian. And I think that was the core difference between the EFF and the ANC.
Yes, on the expropriation without compensation, we fully agree. The difference, yes,
is on custodianship.
When they said all the land must be owned by the state only, meaning individuals can't own land.
Right.
That is where we differ.
DA, you don't want any of it. Solly, you don't want any of it.
There can be an ongoing discussion and debate. about whether land expropriation without compensation is actually legal or not legal. It's actually there in the constitution of the country. They haven't been able to then adequately use it, and instead, where they've been able to then use it, it has been used to advantage those that are politically connected, and it has actually then resulted in a whole lot of corruption. So that is the first thing.
So you don't agree?
Hang on. The second thing is this here. We haven't really addressed the real issue. If the issue was all about land, I promise you people would not be living in Limpopo, people will not be living KZN, people will not be living in the Eastern Cape. They are living and going into where the economy is. People are chasing more the economy, and we need to then address that. Once we address the issue of the economy, we can then talk about where people are settling.
They're both looking at you in disbelief, by the way.